السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسرني أن أرحب بكم في النسخة الأولى من سلسلة صناع السياحة لعام 2021. معكم نور نبلي مساعد رئيس تحرير عرب نيوز، وسأكون مقدمة الجلسة لهذا المساء. يتغير عالم السياحة يوميا وبطرق لم يكن من الممكن أن نتخيلها، وذلك بسبب جائحة كورونا، ولهذا جئناكم هنا الليلة مرئيا. ولكن يجري التغيير في عام 2021 على قدم وساق، حيث تخطط المملكة العربية السعودية لعودة السياح في مايو، وتتم إعادة صياغة الطريقة التي نسافر بها، وهذا يستدعي مناقشة أمور كثيرة. ستتناول ندوتنا الافتتاحية عبر الإنترنت، والتي عنوانها مستقبل السفر والسياحة، هذه الموضوعات الساخنة وغيرها. وستكون الفرصة متاحة لكم أن تطرحوا الأسئلة لضيفتنا الخاصة آية صدر لدعمكم في رحلة أعمالكم. يرجى التحقق من الأيقونات على جانب الشاشة للوصول إلى الترجمة الفورية، واستخدام قسم الأسئلة والأجوبة التفاعلية واستطلاع الرأي. رأيكم فعلا يهمنا. تم تصميم صناع السياحة وفقا لاحتياجكم أنتم. لذا وقبل أن نبدأ نريد معرفة رأيكم في الاستطلاع. وطبعا الاستطلاع هو عبارة عن ما هي الصعوبات الأكثر الذي واجهتوها خلال هذه الفترة، هذا العام الماضي الذي واجهناه. هل هو جذب الزوار، إدارة التدفق النقدي، استقطاب والمحافظة على الموظفين، تلبية طلبات الزائر، تطوير تجارب ومنتجات جديدة؟ أرجو أن ترحبوا معي الآن بممثل الهيئة السعودية للسياحة لهذا المساء، مدير عام لشركات القطاع الخاص، الأستاذ عبد الرحمن بخش، حيث سيطلعنا على آخر أخبار أحدث مبادرات الهيئة، ويشاركنا آخر مستجدات البرامج والأدوات والمنصات التعليمية لدعمكم ودعم أعمالكم.
شركائنا في القطاع الخاص، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. معكم أخوكم عبد الرحمن بخش، مدير عام شركات القطاع الخاص بالهيئة السعودية للسياحة. يسرني أن أرحب بكم في أول جلسة من جلسات مبادرة صناع السياحة. هدفنا دعمكم وتمكينكم من خلال مشاركة المعرفة والأدوات والمهارات التي تساهم في دعم مشاريعكم السياحية. الآن هو الوقت المناسب لتكونوا جزءاً من القطاع السياحي، حيث أنه مليء بالفرص المتعددة والغير مستغلة. مهمتنا كهيئة ليس فقط بناء هوية رائدة في القطاع السياحي، ولكن دعم وتطوير العروض السياحية لترتقي بمملكتنا الحبيبة، وأنتم هم شركائنا في هذه الرحلة. حاب اليوم أطلعكم على مقتطفات من برنامج تمكين القطاع الخاص اللي شغالين عليه حالياً. طبعاً الرسم الموضح حالياً في الشاشة يمثل الرسم فيه غلط في الجراف يا جماعة. المنظومة السياحية مكونة من عدة عناصر رئيسية. النقل والمواصلات سواء كان الجوي أو البري، مكاتب إدارة الوجهات مثل الهيئة الملكية العليا ومشروع البحر الأحمر، الإيواء من فنادق ومنتجعات، قنوات التوزيع مثل وكالات السفر والتطبيق الإلكتروني، وأخيرا محل تركيزنا حاليا الرحلات السياحية، والتي تنظم عن طريق شركات إدارة الوجهات ومنظمي الرحلات. طبعا عام 2020 كان مليء بالتحديات على جميع القطاعات عالميا ومحليا، قد أثرت على أعمال كثير من الشركات، ولكن الحمد لله كانت هذه فرصتنا في الهيئة مع توقف السفر الخارجي لإطلاق برامج سياحية للسوق المحلي عن طريق حملات الصيف والشتاء. وبدورها ساعدت الشركات السياحية لخوض تجربة مميزة مع السائح المحلي وتهيئة الشركات لاستقبال السائح الخارجي في القريب العاجل إن شاء الله. كما ساعدتنا في الهيئة لفهم أبرز التحديات التي تواجه القطاع الخاص. هذه التحديات لخصت في 5 محاور رئيسية، وهي الأنظمة والتشريعات. كانت من شروط وأحكام الرخص أو تصاريح لبعض الوجهات، على سبيل المثال قبل موسم الشتاء وبالتعاون مع وزارة السياحة استطعنا أن نلغي أو ألغت وزارة السياحة شرط الضمان البنكي أو إيجار المكتب لاستخراج رخص منظمي الرحلات. التحدي الثاني اللي هو البنية التحتية في بعض الوجهات كمواقف السيارات، اللافتات التوجيهية، أجهزة الصرف الآلي، حمامات الكرامة. تنقص بعض الوجهات هذه العناصر، وهي مهمة جدا لاستقبال السائح الأجنبي والمحلي كذلك. والمشكلة أو التحدي الثالث اللي هي تيسير والمشاركة، بمعنى أنه يكون في تواصل مستمر بين القطاع الخاص ونحن كهيئة، نسمع لمشاكلكم ونشوف كيف نقدر نحلها بطريقة مباشرة. المحور الرابع أو التحدي الرابع هو الدعم في التسويق، والحمد لله يعني الهيئة رائدة جدا في الحملات التسويقية محليا وعالميا، والصراحة يعني شيء يشرف البلد ويرفع من المستوى. وأخيرا بناء القدرات مثل الدورات التدريبية وورشة العمل والتي تستهدف منظمي الرحلات. بالطبع من أهم مؤشرات الأداء الرئيسية هي رضاء شركائنا على الخدمات المقدمة من قبل الهيئة، وبإذن الله سنحقق هذا عن طريق سرعة في الأداء والتفاعل معكم، التواصل الفعال وبشكل مستمر، التمكين والتيسير للأعمال، وأخيرا التحفيز. رؤيتنا الطموحة العام 2030 هي أن نصل إلى 100 مليون زائر متنوعين بين زوار الترفيه، الأعمال والحج والعمرة بإذن الله. وسنقود هذا الطموح عن طريق المحاور التالية. أولها ترويج للسعودية وحملات تسويقية فريدة من نوعها، عروض سياحية مميزة من خلال شراكات مع القطاع الخاص، وترك بصمة إيجابية لدى الزوار بحيث يتم مشاركتها مع الآخرين. وفي نهاية حواري معكم أحب أقول لكم أنه نحن في بداية المشوار، وإن شاء الله يدا بيد سنحقق المستحيل عبر هذه الرحلة. شكرا لكم جميعا. نترككم مع نتائج التصويت.
Next, we have a very important message from our special guest, Aya Saldar, around the latest developments in global tourism and how these statistics support understanding of the opportunity the region has today and across the 9 years towards Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Aya Saldar is the founder of Bolts, an events company focused on supporting SMEs and startups through accelerator programs and innovation workshops in MENA. Aya has successfully been supporting companies to launch and grow through training thousands of regional and global entrepreneurs and leaders in the innovation ecosystems, with partners such as MISC 500 Startups, Google Techstars, and Emirates Airline. Aya, a very warm welcome to you.
Shukran, Noor. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Aya Sadir, and I will be starting us off with a quick 5-minute update on what is happening in terms of the tourism and travel space, not just in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but globally. So let me take you through. if we start off with, for the global tourism update, we're going to get you to take a look at the macro view. When we discussed the state of the global tourism economy, and I noticed a couple of you had filled out the poll a little bit earlier, and the first thing that you mentioned that your biggest challenge was Jadib al-Zawar, which obviously we know trying to attract the right, I would say, tourists and to attract people during 2019, 2020 was very challenging. And I'm here to show you a little bit about what happened globally, and then we're going to zoom in to Saudi after this. So we're looking at around 1.5 billion tourists that had arrived in 2019. And this again is a global statistic, so not just Saudi Arabia. This number, of course, declined by 70% in 2020. So we were hit globally, according to the UNWTO. But despite this, $1.7 trillion in total foreign direct expenses was incurred in 2019. So this is really about looking at the companies that had expanded their business elsewhere. So taking it from a local to a global setting. So this is quite an optimistic number for a lot of you to actually take a look at. Again, quoted from the UNWTO. And then finally, the total amount of investment into travel and tourism SMEs in 2019 was $7.4 billion, which is one of the highest globally, if we take it in terms of the market share of what we were able to take, according to Focusrite. Now let's look micro. So if we look at the state of tourism in Saudi Arabia alone, we had around 110 billion Saudi riyals that were spent by visitors in 2019. So that number is still quite high. And I'm sure a lot of the SMEs listening here today will agree that we're still making that revenue a part of our business. It is really important for you to note that when we talk about Saudi Arabia, tourism and travel are a very important industry for the kingdom. Around 9.5%, that's approximately, I would say, 1/10 of the entire economy really relies on travel and tourism. So it's really about getting you into shape and making sure that you are ready to take on the challenges. And that's why I've been invited here to speak, to share some of the insights with all of you. Finally, if we look at the number of jobs created by the tourism industry just in 2019 alone, that's 1.4 million, 11.2% of total employment of the entire country. Very, very impressive. Now, where is the opportunity for travel and tourism SMEs within Saudi Arabia? As we know, Saudi Arabia is the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the MENA region. We're talking about 60% of investments alone was because of Saudi Arabia. So as a part of the MENA, we'd like to thank you for making us known and very important globally. So if we look at the total number of dollars spent and awarded to SMEs in Q3 of just 2020, that was $46.9 billion, which is very, I would say that's an incredible amount, and it's very important for us to take a look at that. Second to that, we have the number, which is $152 million that was in terms of the investments in Saudi Arabia-based startups in 2020 alone. So of course, that's not a big chunk, and we can definitely say there is room to grow and also grab some of those dollars worldwide and invest in Saudi Arabia. But if we look at just the increase in total funding alone, according to Magnet, Saudi startups achieved in just H1 of 2020 compared to 2019 numbers, 102% increase. Now that's absolutely incredible. It shows the faith of the VCs and investors in Saudi Arabia. And it also shows that there is an appetite and a growth in the number of successful companies and SMEs within Saudi Arabia. And then finally, if we take a look at the highlights for Saudi in 2020, these are the top 3 startups, but I would call them more SMEs that really got Saudi back onto the map on the global setting. So we look at Jahiz with a $36.5 million raise, Nana raised $18 million, and Noon Academy raised $13 million. I really encourage you all as SMEs listening today to take a look at these figures and try and relate them to your own business. We need you guys to think big, so stay tuned for my next talk. But before that, I want you all to remember that we're here collectively listening in because of the Saudi Vision for 2030. This is what's attracting the world to Saudi, and this is what we really need to be ready for in the next 10 years. So tourism will contribute 10% towards the kingdom's GDP. SMEs will contribute around 35% towards the kingdom's GDP, which is an incredible amount. And I really want everybody here to think about some of the incredible things that you're going to be doing as SMEs in the kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya. That was absolutely insightful. And I think our audience here learned very much about the future of what can hold, inshallah. So if we can condense this, what are the key learnings from this session?
Of course. So if I take a look at a couple of them, we're really talking about that there is an increased support by global funding and investment from 2019 to 2020. So I really want all the SMEs listening here today to really realize that there is an opportunity that's really out there for them. If we look at the amount of credit that was awarded to SMEs in just Q3 of 2020, that's $46.9 billion. So a lot of us were thinking we were on the decline when actually we were doing quite well. And we know that around 10% in terms of the overall GDP of which tourism SMEs are contributing to, that it is extremely important to the kingdom to have the SMEs that we have today. So we really are stressing that tourism is an integral aspect of increasing employment within Saudi at 11.2%. That is quite significant, and I can only see that number rising over the course of the next few years as we head towards Saudi Vision 2030.
Inshallah, that sounds really great. So before we hear more from Aya on how to stay connected, stay informed, and remain agile across the current climate, here is one of the first short films we will play today showcasing the future offerings within Saudi Arabia.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm now going to take you through a little bit more on the future of travel and tourism. And to start off with, I would love to share that at the end of this presentation, you'll all be receiving an info pack, which has all the tools that are going to make your business super successful. So stay tuned with me to hear more. We're going to start off by talking about some of the success stories and some of the journeys that a lot of amazing SMEs I've come across personally have shared with me that I would love to then pass on to all of you listening today. If we look at some of the shapers, some of the SMEs that really I would caution everybody to watch just in the MENA region, we're going to start off with one of my favorite, a Y Combinator graduate, Bondi. Really in line with Saudi Vision for 2030. What Bondi does is they really offer travelers the ability to collaborate on planning trips across the kingdom. They started off by trying to find out a way to use Saudi as a vehicle to take passengers from Saudi to the rest of the world. During Corona, what they did is they really pivoted their business model to try and encourage more local travel. And I think that's something that we can really learn from, is how to become more agile in terms of our movement as SMEs, as entrepreneurs in the room. Second to them, a Dubai-based SME called Hotel Data Clouds. They really pivoted to meet their customers where they are. They took COVID-19 as an opportunity for their business. And what do I mean by this? What they do for hotels is they help them get their reviews, their SEO, their keyword search really at an optimal level. So what they did really well during COVID is they recognized the fact that a lot of hotels had slowed down their operation during this time. And they really took advantage to reach out and make sure that they just kept scaling their business beyond the UAE during this time. So they became very successful, and a lot of investors turned their attention towards them in spite of the pandemic. Finally, if we look at an incredible tech company that also pivoted their appearance during COVID-19, they embraced digital. Thrift.io, recognized by Sheikh Hamdan, one of our rulers in the UAE, at GITEX in 2019, what they basically did, this SME in particular, is they looked at their blog and online presence. Instead of trying to get people from point A to point B, which was typically the way that we were moving in the past, now what they try to do is get people to move online. So they created incredible experiences using their digital network, and that's how they essentially pivoted their business. Now, in terms of some of the successful case studies that I wanted to quote with all of you, I look at incubators in the GCC as the first place when I'm looking for successful businesses. I want you to remember that it's almost like the Harvard and the Yale you would say students, but almost the SMEs and startups that that's where they go when they want to become successful. So here's a few of them that I'll mention that I've either met at competitions or have graduated from incubators or accelerator programs. StayHopper, a platform that allows travelers to book their stays on an hourly basis. What they were able to do is cater to the customer of today. The customer of today is really involved in the experience, less so on trying to create a perfect, let's say, package for a customer. A customer wants to be able to pick and choose what they need now. And that's why I think StayHopper is not just thinking about the customer of today, but also planning for the customer of tomorrow. Second to them is Ads Flight. They're basically a digital marketing agency that caters ads to travelers in airports. Now, a lot of us know that the way that we're traveling is that we probably don't want to stop too much. We don't want to talk to too many people. So what Ads Flight did in the middle of the pandemic is they teamed up with another startup in an accelerator program all the way in Ireland that had a POC with Emirates Airline. So what you'll see for Ads Flight tomorrow is they'll be integrated in through the Bonflight app, which is where Emirates will be listing all their duty-free options. So it's incredible to see how some of these SMEs had really pivoted their appearance during COVID-19. Finally, we have the last two, Further Network, which uses blockchain to decentralize the travel industry, reduce costs, and protect customer privacy. What we're really trying to figure out here is, what are we planning for? Are we planning to serve our customers, or are we trying to think bigger and we're trying to think long term? And that's what Further Network is doing. They're trying to protect the customer's privacy, which is going to become a very important topic in the future. You will be hiring cybersecurity specialists onto your team very, very soon. I promise you. Finally, we have Ariadne Maps. They use AI to provide spatial customer analytics relating to the routes travelers take and the areas where they spend their most time. It's very important for us to realize that we are collecting data at every second. And these are some of the top SMEs, I would say globally, that are thinking forward, that are thinking towards the future. You can definitely learn a lot from them. So what we're trying to pitch to you today is, how can you think bigger? How can we go from local to global? If we take a look at Careem, who was the Middle East's first unicorn, established in 2012 just as a ride-hailing app, the founder's vision was simply to become a B2B service for ride-hailing. Today, what they've done is they've leveraged the sharing economy. They have been acquired by Uber for $3.1 billion. How ironic. Their biggest competitor in the region acquired them eventually. So remember that you're building your business to have a USP. You're trying to find something so unique that even the biggest player in the world would see that there's something to add in terms of their own portfolio if they acquire you. And finally, they're currently operating in over 100 cities in 14 countries. And if you take a look at their interface, it's looking better and better every day. So we can definitely learn from Careem in terms of how they're able to scale their business. Second to them are HDC, Hotel Data Cloud, who I mentioned earlier. Technology at a scale. How are you able to take a simple idea and grow it from being just, I would say, a local company to a global one? What they basically did is they aimed to become a global database for hotels to manage their information. It was just a vision that the founders had in mind. And today, the SME has raised $1.5 million in the middle of a pandemic from both local and international investors. So I can definitely say these are the two I would quote that really thought bigger. Now, how can you as SMEs really learn from some of the, I would say, ways these SMEs have organized themselves? What are the tools? What are the recommendations that you can take from them? Now, I've compiled a list for all of you that will especially guide you in terms of how can you build your SMEs, how can you build your businesses for the future while not having, let's say, the biggest, cash, I would say, not having so much liquidity at this time. These are a lot of different tools that I've gathered that will support you at almost zero to no cost, and I would definitely recommend. At the end of this presentation, you will also receive an info pack with every single link to all of these different platforms for you to be able to just look through. And this is just a gift from me to you so that you would be able to really benefit and add value to your SMEs and also empower your people. These are essentially the things that are going to keep you sustainable, but also keep you at the top of the watch list when it comes to some of the best SMEs, not just in the tourism space, but in the world, in every single industry. Now, if we look at your presentation and your online presence, there's a few different areas I would definitely recommend if you need additional support. So if we take a look at design and marketing, how are you going to rethink your strategy, your content, and your channels? How are you going to stay relevant to your customers? Your digital marketing, your online presence, how are you going to harness that power? And then we talk about, how can you really display or test some of the ideas that your people or even your businesses have in mind. There's two different ways to do it, and one of them is through an app prototype. This basically is like a proto.io or any other software that can support you in building something very lean. And then we have your website, of course. So Squarespace, Wix.com, a few others that you can really test out for yourself. I always do this. I always test out just random websites. I A/B test with a little bit of budget, and I see what people are really looking for. And this is a great exercise for you to really understand your customer and realize what's out there. What are you competing against, essentially? And then finally, presentation tools such as Canva and a few others that I've made as part of the recommendations. Now, second, I would love to explain this for all of you listening today. As SMEs, you have to be online. You have to be where your customers are. They're on their phones, they're on their desktop, they're on calls, on Zoom all day, which is where all of you are right now. And what you need to be doing as SMEs is you need to be using data to make better decisions, not just for your customer, but also for your business. So, you need to be researching as much as you can about your customer. You need to be deriving good information from the analytics, the data that you're reading about in terms of your customer behavior and your industry trends and a lot more. Finally, increasing your team's capabilities. I cannot highlight enough how many SMEs, how many startups have come to me asking me about how can I really protect my team? How can I make sure that they are organized and that they're working remotely but effectively? So, there's a few different project management tools such as Asana. I personally use Todoist with my team. I love it. I get an email every time someone checks something off. And then, a few others that I've recommended as well today, along with templates, just templates for you to use if you want to do any cash flow modeling, business modeling, how to keep your accounting in check. I personally use QuickBooks. I don't even need an accountant. I just drop all my invoices in there and it just does it for me. So I think there's a ton of tools you can really benefit from the list that I've gathered for you today. And if you ever need any more support, go to whybolt.com and you can reach out to me personally. Happy to help any SME that's looking for help. Finally, when it comes to fundraising, this is a very important question I'm sure a lot of you are asking. Who were the top 5 firms investing in Saudi? I'm sure there's a few here you're looking at and you already know. Kaust, 500 startups in collaboration with MISC Foundation, Flat 6 Labs for Jeddah, Saudi Aramco and OCAL. To list just a few more, because I think it's important to keep your options open. You have MENA Accelerator, you have Vision Ventures, Riot Ventures, Impact 46, RTF and BIAC, and a lot more. I will also be releasing a report personally on Whybolt for you to be able to access. I've profiled all the different investors and VCs within MENA, and I also want you to do the same for your business. I really believe that when you want an investor to take a look at your business, it is a two-way interview. You need to be assessing them and you need to be understanding whether or not they're the right investors for your business. So I really encourage everybody to do their research and always ask questions. You're not the one who's being interviewed. It's a two-way streak. And then finally, if we can really put together the key takeaways of the presentation, and I think everybody should keep these in mind, especially that, we've hit the first pandemic and we have to be ready for what's coming next. I did a presentation a few weeks ago with MENA speakers, just talking about how some of the top things that we need to be wary of in the future is, cyber attacks. We need to be very cautious about, any issues that can happen on a global level. We need to be ready for anything. So I think one of the main things as SMEs is you have to stay informed. There's no more time to lag behind and receive the information last. You need to be ahead. And as tourism SMEs listening here today, here are the top ones that I would recommend. So starting off, of course, the Saudi Tourism Authority, Tourism Shapers, the amazing webinar series they've put forth just for you, which is absolutely incredible. I see amazing things coming from Saudi. Magnet, ArabNet, Entrepreneur Middle East, the Ministry of Tourism, of course, Invest Saudi, and then, of course, the Saudi website. So make sure you're staying up to date, stay informed, and don't be the last one to hear the news. And really start networking with other businesses so that you can also make sure that you're always getting information in time. Second, I would say stay connected. I've quoted this a few times, but the cost of one customer, just to gain one customer, is almost 10x just retaining one. So I would say keep in touch with your customers, make sure that you're gaining a lot of information from them. Try to make sure that you're getting their surveys from SurveyMonkey, you're using Google Forms to get in touch, a few simple questions for them just to keep the conversation going. I really promise everybody here today, it is worth it and it's super, super important for you. And then finally, I would say be agile. I think there's one word in the pandemic, which is change. Make sure that you are ready for anything that can come your way. And growth requires agility. I cannot stress this enough. Always focus on how you can grow your business. Don't be complacent with just 4 employees or 5 employees in your business. Think Mudassir Sheikha, think Kareem, think bigger. Think 400, 500 employees. Why not? You deserve it. If you're a smart individual and you have a business that matters and is steering towards the future, then you deserve to be ahead. So make sure you're researching, check out your Google Analytics, understand where your customers are going, where are they dropping off, what's the bounce rate, and why. Make sure you're communicating as much as you can with them through MailChimp. Make sure that you are organizing yourselves in the right fashion. And I promise everybody listening here today, you will be successful. Thank you so much for your time. And what you can start doing differently is start customizing your experiences, improve your value delivery, and stay connected. These are really important factors that are going to ensure everybody listening here today is going to be extremely successful. Thank you so much.
Wow, Aya, thank you so much. I've learned so much right now, and it actually gave a push to go further and that you can succeed. I want to circle back to when you said you actually encourage people to ask questions. I personally have a few. And one of the interesting points you said that I really enjoyed was think global, think bigger. So how can we take an audience from thinking local to thinking global? What would be condensed kind of answer, please?
For sure. I would say when we think about going bigger, or we think about going global, sometimes we think we need so much cash to be able to do that. The power of the internet today is endless. What we can find out about our customers, what we can research, and what we can try to tap into on a global scale, it's available to us. But we have to be curious enough to ask those questions. So I'm really encouraging a lot of SMEs listening today to really go out there and do their research.
Wonderful. So you're encouraging questions. I asked a question, and I hope the audience will now ask a question as well. Thank you so much, Aya. So let me tell you, the Q&A is about to close. If any of you have any burning questions you'd like to ask either Aya or myself, now is the time to submit. So I shared some really insightful case studies and learnings within the session. What can we take away and instantly action today within businesses, Aya?
Mhm. Of course, Noor. So I would say a couple of different things that I would really want all the SMEs listening here to keep in mind. It's all about collaboration. If we can really team up with others to strengthen our value proposition as businesses, then we would be able to attract more people to to Saudi Arabia. And I think that's really the objective here, is how can we really attract more and more people to Saudi beyond this pandemic. Let's think forward towards 2030. The second is to stay informed with industry trends. Every minute with the pandemic happening, we need to be up to date. We need to make sure that we're receiving the most relevant and current information. We also need to be able to use available tools and resources to stay agile, and we need to stay connected to our customers. So I would say it's all about engagement, engagement, engagement. Don't fall out of touch with your customers just because of the current economic climate. They're also going through it. And I think once we realize that we're all in this together, we'll start working together. So it's really going to be in the future about exciting, tailoring some of our offerings to our customers to be able to accommodate for them. Whether that means we have to find them online, then that's where we're going to go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So following this session, you'll be sharing your resources and tool packs with key links to support various areas of your business, of SMEs businesses, while the Tourism Shapers program will take place each month, focusing on specific skill areas required by you, the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw on your screens right now was a look to the future of Saudi and at the projects that are going to divide the country's tourism offering. Our destination highlight, which was just displayed, is the magical Al Ula. Once it was a thriving hub for commercial and cultural exchange, it is now recognized as a place of extraordinary natural and human heritage. The vast desert landscape is home to preserved tombs, sandstone outcrops, historical dwellings and monuments, as well as the kingdom's very first UNESCO World Heritage Site, Hijra. It's absolutely beautiful. In the past, it was a meeting point for ancient civilizations from around the world. Today, Al Ula is a place of heritage ready for the world to explore. So that's what you just saw. Thank you so much for that. And Aya's back with us. Hi, Aya.
Hi, Noor. I agree. That was a beautiful video. And honestly, I miss personally Saudi Arabia. It was incredible to visit both Jeddah as well as Riyadh. Honestly, I really hope the pandemic ends soon and the restrictions lift so we can come back.
Hopefully very soon. Well, hopefully next time we can meet in Al-Ula, perhaps this time in a different location in Saudi.
Inshallah.
So now it's time for the panel. We want to thank everyone for submitting their questions. We had some really great responses and we wish we could answer them all, but let's pick the top 3 from today's session. So the top question we've been asked this evening is, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for businesses in the tourism sector in Saudi?
That's a very good question. Also, I think the answers to this would be endless. I think when we look at the tourism sector, and I quoted Bondi a little bit earlier, how do we focus on local tourism? I think it's really an opportunity for now the governments around the world, not just in Saudi, to focus on themselves. How can we really encourage the people of Saudi Arabia to travel locally? So I would say that once the pandemic hits, we could really learn from what China did. Similar to this, they have encouraged local travel to be able to accommodate for the downfall in terms of tourism, in terms of people spending outside of the country. They then reversed that problem and got people to spend within. So I think it's really about focusing on ourselves. Take this time to really admire the fact that nobody is coming to visit you, and you can really just be with yourselves and really harness, I would say, the love across Saudi Arabia, really get people to travel from Al-Ula to Riyadh, to Jeddah, to Khabar, really get that cross movement, cross city movement between the different places in Saudi.
It's amazing. So maybe perhaps local travel now can be called exclusive travel because there are not many people, so you can really indulge in sightseeing. Absolutely wonderful. So let's go. So let's go to the second question, which was requested by a few of our audience today. They're saying one of the biggest issues as a small business is people and resourcing. How do we best grow our business with limited headcount?
As a small business owner myself, I have the same question, right? I think a lot of the time we look towards the pool of applicants that we see around us within the city that we live. It's very comfortable to be able to have somebody there with you working 8 to 5. But honestly, I've been learning a lot about nomadic experiences. And also the pandemic taught us how we can really leverage some of the talent that we have around the world. So some of the best developers I've seen in MENA region really surprised me as a country was Jordan, for example. I had tapped into resources there in terms of also, let's say, opening up businesses in Saudi while I'm all the way in the UAE. I made amazing contacts as well across just the internet, asking people for support. So I think, really leverage off of the fact sometimes talent might be a little bit difficult for us to find around us. But with technology, we can look a little bit further now. We can explore other territories where we can find the type of talents we're searching for. And there's so many places you can find them. You can just go on Fiverr. You can even search on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, I would say, my favorite platform in terms of search. You can ask friends. I think the objective is don't be shy and really get out the word what you're looking for.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I think we're going to go to our last but not least question, which our audience wanted to know is that you mentioned stay connected, and there are many hubs or industry groups you recommend. Are there any hubs or industry groups you recommend joining or being a part of?
I'm just going to go back to the question before just for a second, because they were talking about having limited resources, right? I mentioned the info pack I was offering earlier. There's a lot of different things in there that, trust me, nobody would even realize that you don't have a designer on your team. So Canva is like my best friend in terms of all the design work that we do. And if you see Why Bolt, our Instagram page, you'll see it's all been done on Canva, but it looks super professional. So try and leverage off of the resources I mentioned in the info pack to get what you need. Now, in terms of the next question, sorry, Noor, going back to you. The hubs
We're
or
learning so
industry.
much from you.
Thank you. Likewise. So any of the hubs or industry groups that I recommend being a part of, as a woman in business as well, I would say one of the most incredible ladies I met was Ayman Shakur. she has something called Blossom Accelerator, which is a VC just for women. I would definitely recommend any female founders listening here today to take a look at that. Also, while I was in Riyadh, I attended, of course, the MISC Foundation had done one of the biggest forums, attracted SMEs and startups from all over the MENA region. I would definitely recommend MISC, anything that they're doing, basically. They've teamed up with 500 startups as well, which nurture and support a lot of different VCs. And then Flat Six Labs, of course, incredible network in Jeddah as well. Also a huge investor in SMEs. I would definitely try and take a look at that. And then, of course, follow Tourism Shapers. Just take a look at the amazing speakers they have lined up for the rest of the webinar series. And you'd really be able to take advantage of some of these amazing talks and some of the amazing free resources they're offering to you. It's a blessing to be able to be supported during this difficult time. And again, it's just beautiful to see the government stepping forward to support its people.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Aya, for joining us tonight. It was truly wonderful meeting you. And I'm sure our audience would join me in saying that you are an inspiration for SMEs. We look forward to receiving tools and insights following the session. Thank you so much.
Shukran. Thank you very much.
وصلنا لنهاية جلستنا اليوم. أود أن أشكر المتحدثين لمشاركة أفكارهم القيمة، وبالطبع أشكر مشاهدينا. شكرا لحضوركم أول ندوة عبر الإنترنت لصناع السياحة ولمشاركاتكم في النقاش حول ما قد يحمله مستقبل السياح والسفر. لدينا الآن استطلاع نود نعرف رأيكم. ما مدى تقييمك لجلسة مستقبل السفر والسياحة اليوم؟ لا علاقة لها بوضعي، ذات صلة ولكن ليست مثيرة للاهتمام، مثيرة للاهتمام ولكن ليست قابلة للتنفيذ، يمكنني استخدام الحقائق في وقت ما في المستقبل، أو يمكنني استخدام الحقائق غدا. نريد نعرف رأيكم. وبذلك سيتم عقد الجلسة التالية في 17 مارس، حيث سنناقش استراتيجية التسعير والمبيعات، ونبحث كيف يمكن أن نكون تنافسيين، ونطلع على الفرصة المتاحة في كل نقطة سعر، ونخبركم كيف يمكنكم تصميم تجاربكم وتحديد ميزانياتها لجذب مجموعة واسعة من العملاء. انضموا إلينا في المرة القادمة في سلسلة صناع السياحة، حيث سنواصل صناعة مستقبل السعودية معا. أتمنى لكم أمسية سعيدة.